Okay, so this is story time 2 without somebody coughing in the background. Demon 1. Mudslinging so early. What's recording? Yay! The vapors. Oh, look at all the smoke. Smoke bomb! Cut. Do it again. Okay. She didn't know dad like I did. That's why.
God, I wish I had a real name.
I have one hell of a set of balls on me. Okay, so the story I'm going to tell you is one that I experienced personally. And it was years ago. I think I was like 19 or 20. And I was working at the Sunset Mart in Orofino, Idaho, which I worked there for like 3 years. And I met a lot of cool people and I met a lot of weird fucking people. But this one gentleman that I met was part of an outfitting company. And in case you don't know what that is where people pay a shit ton of money to come out here to Orofino, Idaho and places like it, and they go to a hunting camp and then they get to shoot an elk or a deer or a bear or whatever they sign up to shoot. And then they are able to like be there for like a week until they can fill that tag, and then they pack up their shit and they leave, and it's like thousands of dollars. It's really good business if you can get into it, but it's really hard to get it going. Anyway, so this guy that I made friends with, he was really cool, and his nickname was Marv. And just like the cigarettes. And he was really cool. He was a really good friend of mine. And if you're out there, I'm telling this story, and you should reach out to me because I've been thinking about you for a long time and praying for you for a long time. But I understand if the reminder of me reminds you of that situation and you just don't ever want to see it again, which I wouldn't blame you. But I hope you're well wherever you are. So, he was following a herd of elk that were going up to this place it was called Black Mountain, and it was somewhere along the Montana-Idaho border. Now, I've went back to do some research on it before, and nobody could quite tell me what that was. That was also years ago, so there might be more information on it. But Black Mountain, it was crazy. And so, if you don't understand how a guide works when it comes to doing the outfitting, the guide is the one who goes out in the middle of the woods and finds this herd and tracks them for a little bit. And then where they say, okay, then they call in the rest of the people and they make base camp there for hunting camp. That's how it works. So the guide is the first one out there in the rough and the tumble before anybody gets there. And so it's pretty solitary in the middle of the craziest, darkest places in the woods that you wouldn't even think to go. So it's already kind of a creepy job. So we go to this place, and in order to get all the equipment that needs to be at the camp, we had to take 2 Morgan horses and 7 pack mules. And the only way to get to this area where he believed these elk were actually like bedding down and resting at was to go up this old ass mining path, which wasn't very wide. So if you don't know what a Morgan horse has a huge ass on it, and it takes up every last little bit of space. And at this time, I was over like 300 pounds at the time. So you can imagine that there was no space on this trail. And one side was a sheer cliff mountain and then a sheer cliff. And so there was no room to turn around, no time to make any mistakes. And it took hours to get up this teeny weeny little spiral that went up the side of this hill. We finally get up to the top of it. Now we got 7 pack mules, so we were moving real slow. And so we finally get up to the top. And there is this clearing, like the small little field. And then there is this old trail that takes off into the woods, right into the wood line. And the trees are doing this really cool thing that I really love, is when the trees do this, and it makes like a tunnel, and it's really pretty, and it's really cute. You see it in like all kinds of like films and stuff. Anyway, this was like natural. And so here we are on our horses. And all of a sudden, like when we get to the top, the closer we get to the wood line, like the animals start freaking out. The horses don't want to go. They're fighting the whole time. The mules don't want to go, and we're all tied together. So they're backing up. So we're having to back up. So then we had to get off, and we had to like untie everybody for a hot second, let everybody calm down. And all of a sudden, I'm looking over at Marv, and he's not paying attention to what's going on. And I look at him. So I'm on my horse. So I go around to the side of him, and I look at him, and I say, dude, what's going on? And he just doesn't even look at me, and he just points like that. And I look over, and right where the trail goes into, right where the trees all meet, there's a figure standing there. Well, I'm kind of colorblind, so it takes me a second to like adjust. As I let my eyes adjust and I look, I shit you not when I tell you that I saw a full sized, what seemed to be like 9 feet tall minotaur standing there like this. The big horns that were out, it had the big ring in its nose, its eyes were red, and it was not facing directly towards us, but it was off to its side like that. And it was just standing there looking directly at us. And I gotta tell you, it was one of the most, ooh, it makes me cringe to think about. It was one of the scariest times of my life. It was really fucked up. And we were so scared, we didn't know what to do. And at first, I was like, not 100% believing what it was that I was seeing. Like, I could feel the fear, but I was like, no, there's got to be something. Somebody's fucking with us some way, somehow. So I jump off my horse and I start walking towards it. And then it was standing like this. And then it turned right towards me and took a step. And that one step, this energy come rushing at me that literally pushed me back. It was one of the most god-awful things I'd ever seen in my life, ever experienced, ever. And so he and I didn't know what to do. But we were standing next to this huge cedar tree. And so we decided to get off our horses and sort of stand on behind this tree to avoid having to look. And the thing was, is that path that we came up was already so narrow and was already so treacherous, we could not risk going back downhill with all of our equipment. He flat said it could not be done. He goes, we would roll in a heartbeat and that would be the end of it. He goes, there's no way. And so we had to push forward or figure out something. And when we got there, it was early in the morning. We'd started the trip at like 4 in the morning, and it was probably like 9 in the morning when we got there, like up to this point. Anyway, we were behind the tree for hours, and every time we stopped to look around to see where that thing was, it would get a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer, and just freaking the fuck out. And I'm really not getting into the detail of the conversations and the behavior that was being taken at the place, because that was, it's hard to watch yourself and others break down to that level of fear and live to talk about it. So that I won't talk about, but let's just say I definitely pissed my pants. And all of a sudden I was sitting there and I was praying. I was on my knees fucking praying that this would all go away. And finally something hits me. I remembered when I was really young and I was in church, I was raised Baptist and whatnot, and was talking about, I'd seen something about somebody having confidence in what they believed, and it was the belief in what it was that they believed in that gave it power. And so all of a sudden I stood up and I went and I got back on the trail and I looked at this thing and I said, in the name of Christ, you will let us pass. And boop, he was gone. And so we mounted up, and it was like 2:30 in the afternoon by this point, okay? Their time had passed. And so we finally mount up, we get everything ready, and we take off towards this huge freaking tunnel. And as we're going, craziest fucking thing, it was pitch black. Once we got a certain way into this tunnel, it was pitch black. And you could look up and you could see the moon. You couldn't see any stars, but you could see the moon big as day. And it was absolutely crazy. Like I said, it was bright summer, sunny, or not summer. It was in the fall, but still, it was, it was a bright day, and it was 2:30 in the afternoon. So as we're going through this, we hear this noise coming up behind us, and it sounds like there's a bunch of like demonic hyenas that are chasing after us. And so the mules are freaking out and are so caught up with us, so they're literally up our asses trying to go down this tunnel of trees that's taking place. And during the whole thing, I remember looking off to the right like that for a hot second, just in time to see this huge stone throne that was there. And there was another stone throne sitting next to it that was smaller. And then it had a couple of little seats and then these big piles of rocks that were in front of it. And I seen it for about 5 seconds before it was completely out of view. And the whole time that we're going down this tunnel, I am seeing the craziest things in the trees, like dropping down like spiders, but not touching us. It was by far the craziest shit ever. Boom. Finally, we get to the end of the tunnel. We come out and it's fucking sunny. And when I finally was able to get to my phone, and by the way, from the stopping point after we got out of this, there was a lot of stopping and breathing and vomiting and pissing, and even the horses were fucked because whatever was chasing us behind us had got hold of one of the mules. And now, like I said, this is one of those moments where it gets a little graphic, so we're going to drop a graphic in here. Heads up, I'm about to tell a really graphic story. So if you are one who's easy to get the vapors, then tune off now. The final mule did not actually make it. Whatever demonic, scary animal shit that was chasing us had actually ripped the back legs off of it, and by the time we had stopped, it had been completely just disemboweled, and it was somehow it was still fucking alive, and he had to shoot it, and it was screaming, and it was just this horrible fucking thing that happened. Anyway, like I said, by the time I got to my phone, it was like 2:30 in the afternoon. I know for fuck shit that it did not take no 30 minutes to get through there. And how was it that we looked up and saw the moon in the middle of the night when I know damn well it was the middle of the day? So obviously some sort of portal. Now, this was way before I came into any of my gifts and before I went to school and realized all this other shit and before I started getting into demonology and recognizing, different demons and what they do. So one of the first things you learn is that demons aren't just randomly put places. They have to have a job. They have to have a duty, whatever it is they do. This big nasty minotaur thing was guarding some sort of sacred space or portal, which I totally believe it was. And, unfortunately, then we couldn't radio down to anybody until the morning because nobody was back at the radio until then. So we had to stay the night, this whole entire thing, and we did not sleep not a fucking wink. Like, we had a fire going. The first thing he did was chop down a big ass tree, and we bucked up a bunch of shit to make. We had logs and everything. We were burning them constantly, even before the sun went down. We had logs going and just burned them all night long. So it was fucking crazy. And then in the morning, everything was fine. Crazy noises, cackling in the middle of the night. It was so nuts. Like, we didn't even eat anything. We were out there. Like, we didn't even think about it. It was just, we didn't want to do anything to open up any food to attract anything near us. So we just sort of were just there for hours. And finally, when the sun started coming up, we started radioing, and it took like hours to finally somebody get picked up. And then it took hours for them to come and get us, because the only way to get up from the other place was to come up by 4-wheel, which we didn't have. And so they had to drive halfway up, get on 4-wheelers, and then come out to where we were, pick us up. And then he paid somebody to go back and get the horses and all the equipment and shit because he was so scared he wouldn't go do it. Anyway, sorry if I scared you and you can't sleep tonight. But this does rev me up to one of the videos that I will be doing later on. It will be on angel sigils to protect yourself from demonic possessions and all other demons and all other bad spirits. Basically a way to seal your protection in 10 different ways from Sunday to protect you from everything. Like my channel, subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys all later.